ain't got no boundaries to hold me back. Boundaries is what I lack. Howdy, folks, and welcome to the Conflation Station. Hop on board the next train out, and let's take a ride to a place where anything's possible.
Hello and welcome to the Conflation Station. My name is Hugo Yorway, and I'll be your tour guide for today's podcast, including political commentary, conspiracy theories, and some cool music from the Electric Love Orchestra. At the Conflation Station, our team of creative writers and novice journalists combine elements of irony, satire, and pure absurdity to create insightful political commentary and homespun conflated conspiracy theories taken from today's news headlines. In the first segment of our show, known as the 14th Circuit, or what I like to call the Court of Public Opinion, renowned raconteur the Reverend Rusty Stubblefield shares his unfiltered and unhinged views about America's constitutional, or shall I say unconstitutional, crisis. His topic this week is gerrymandering. Rusty, the microphone is all yours.
Well, thank you, Hugo. If you recall a few episodes ago, I talked about a feller named Artie. And if you don't recall, or is new to this here Conflation Station podcast, his full name was Artificial Intelligence. And as a reminder, he done got that name because he's so damn smart. Mind you, he don't got no book learning. He's got what they call machine learning. You know, the kind that them supercomputers get. And if in my memory serves me correct, I said that Artie's going to start to run this here US of A in a blink of an eye. Well, now enter stage left yet another feller that seems to have something to say when it comes to running these here United States. His name is Jerry Mandarin. He must be an Asian feller with the name of Mandarin. You know, like those tiny little Mandarin oranges you get in a can at Walmart. The ones you have on the side when you eat those egg rolls you got from the freezer section. Damn, don't you just hate it when Walmart runs out of egg rolls and all they's got is them there woke spring rolls? Them there spring rolls ain't got no meat in them. Give me an egg roll with those little pieces of pork inside or some of them tiny little shrimp. I ain't no woke vegan, and I can't believe people is buying sushi at Walmart for they's lunch. All I can say is that us Americans sure enjoys that hearty Asian cuisine here in the US of A. Anyway, I have not seen this feller Mandarin on the TV, but I have heard he's been taking up a lot of time on the airwaves. And those Democrats in Texas, they sure is scared of him. So scared, they's hitched up their wagons and headed all the way to Chicago to hide out so that Mandarin feller couldn't find him. I hear that finally, these Democrats came back to Texas with a little gentle persuading from that there Governor Greg Abbott. Personally, I feel bad for that Abbott feller being that he's both physically and mentally disabled. I seen him riding around in a motorized wheelchair. You know, with all the smarts we got here in this here country, I'm surprised that ain't no one invented a device like a wheelchair that people can wear on they's heads to help them set they's brains straight. Anyway, when those Dems came back, the Republicans forced a vote on the floor of the Texas House of Representatives and saw to it that feller Jerry Mandarin got his way when it comes to redistricting. I even saw on the TV that some nice young black lady cared so much about that there redistricting issue. She done camped out on the floor of the Texas House of Representatives for 2 nights just so she could show them Republicans that just like them, she also knew how to be asleep at the wheel. Maybe these Republicans could let some of them homeless people living in Dallas and Houston sleep in that there Capitol building along with that woman. You know, they could start up a homeless shelter and have some Southern barbecue right outside on the Capitol lawn. Hell yeah, here's an idea. They could call the whole shooting match the Capitol Grill. Now that would work. By now, some of you folks are probably asking, what does that there Jerry Mandarin feller do anyway? Well, let me tell you. He redraws them their election maps so that one party gets an advantage over the other when it gets down to voting time. But I can explain it much simpler than that. He redraws them voting maps so that black people, Hispanic people, and poor people don't get these votes counted. The Republicans figure that poor people and people of color are voting Democrat, so they's trying to cut them out of the equation. And pretty soon, there's going to be another national election. They call this one the midterm. And there's going to be voting. And they's Republicans, because they think they's going to be losing seats in Congress, they's redrawn them election maps to try and jerry-rig them. Hell, did I just say jerry-rig? Hey, maybe that's where that feller Jerry gets his first name. What I mean to say is gerrymandering is the way them there Republicans is trying to rig the elections in they's favor. Now, this here jerry-rigging ain't something new. Both the Republicans and the Democrats have been doing it for years. In point of fact, one of them their founding fathers himself came up with the whole damn idea. By coincidence, his name was also Jerry, except that was his last name. His first name was, get this, Eldridge. Now, what the hell kind of name is Eldridge? Well, tickle me, Eldridge. I ain't never met anyone named Eldridge. Have you? Anywho, this feller whose name was Eldridge Jerry, he was one of them radical patriots who signed that there Declaration of Independence way back in 1776. He came up with the whole damn idea when he was governor of New York State back in the 1800s. Go figure. A damn Yankee came up with the idea of rigging elections. You would have thought the idea would have come from some Southern gentleman who owned slaves. Well, Eldridge, we's now on a first-name basis. He went on to be vice president, serving alongside President James Madison. Like most politicians, Eldridge had friends in high places. So now, let's fast forward a couple of 100 years. Gerrymandering is still hard at work in these here United States, and if one state is going to try to tip the election in favor of them there Republicans, one of those radical blue liberal states is going to try to do the same for them there Democrats. You know, tit for tat, eye for an eye, a quid pro kind of situation. California is trying to redistrict blue, and Mississippi, Ohio, and Florida is trying to turn the map more red. Before you know it, with all this blue and red BS, we's going to be living back in the days that led up to that there Civil War when we's had two different countries in these here United States. Way back then, you had your slave states and you had your free states. Hey, now, just hold on one New York City minute, and let's take a pause right here, right now. I think I've just given myself an idea. Being a man of God, I's a practical man. And as the good book says, Romans 1 and Matthew 7, live and let live. Like they says nowadays, you do you and let me do me. Here's what I think. Why don't we go back to those pre-Civil War days where we's had two different countries making up America? Today you got your Trump states and you got your non-Trump states. One country stands for Trump and one country stands for liberty and justice for all. There won't be no red states, no blue states, and none of those crazy purple states neither. We won't need that gerrymandering feller coming up with plans to redistrict individual states to rig elections. Just change the whole kit and caboodle, Trump states and non-Trump states. These non-Trump states could be called the radical states, or the liberal states, or the liberal radical states, or better yet, commie states. And those Trump states, you might want to call them Alligator America, with the capital located in Palm Beach, Florida, at Trump's Mar-a-Lago mansion. While we's at it, might as well change the name of these here United States to the Divided States of America. Come on, America. You was able to get her done just before the Civil War. You can do it again. Let's make America great again. We's much better off when we's divided. Now I starting to get real excited. Come on, Rusty, calm down. Whoa. And now, as I say at the end of each of my weekly sermons, if you and me put our pretty little heads together, we may still be able to figure out how to get this here US of A back on track. Thank y'all for listening.
Rusty Stubblefield is an unemployed certified auto mechanic and deacon at the Church of Our Lady of Original Sin. And now it's time to take our weekly musical journey with the inimitable Electric Love Orchestra featuring Rusty Stubblefield on vocals in an original piece written by world-renowned composer E. Dudex entitled Hey, Tough Guy. Stay tuned, and we'll be right back with this week's Conflated Conspiracy Theories.
Hey, tough guy. Do you want to have a knife fight? Hey, tough guy. I'm gonna punch you in the face. Hey, tough guy. Don't go messing around with my wife. Hey, tough guy. I'm gonna put you in your place.
Thank you, Rusty E. Dudex and the Electric Love Orchestra for creating that masterpiece, available online at Bearberry Path Music. In our next segment of the podcast, we'll be sharing various homegrown conspiracy theories that have been developed by our staff of creative writers and novice journalists who believe first and foremost that at the Conflation Station, anything is possible. We invite you, our listeners, to share your own homegrown conspiracy theories by sending an email to bearberrypathmusic, one word, @gmail.com. That's bearberrypathmusic, one word, @gmail.com, and place the words conspiracy theory in the subject line. We would love to hear from you, our listeners. Today, we will be turning our attention to stories about military takeovers and mail-in ballots. Our lead story this week focuses on President Trump's plans to take over America's major cities by use of military force. Newsflash, coming to a city near you. First it was Los Angeles, then Washington, D.C. Next, President Trump will be taking his military coup roadshow on tour again, this time destination America's Windy City, Chicago, Illinois. A convicted criminal himself, President Trump knows how important it is to be tough on crime. Prior to leaving Washington, D.C. for yet another game of golf, to date, President Trump has spent 55 out of his 217 days in office golfing at an estimated cost of $77 million in taxpayer money. Prior to leaving the White House to go golfing, Trump said, quote, "Chicago is a cesspool. Its streets are filled with bad guys just like me, and we've got to get rid of them or elect them to public office as soon as possible. There are hundreds of murderers, migrants, rapists, sex traffickers, drug dealers, and all other types of violent criminals roaming the dark alleys of Chicago, and I'm prepared to go Rambo style on them. I've actually talked to Sylvester Stallone about this and use our armed forces to take down that radical, liberal, democratic city with flamethrowers and tanks if I have to. I'll turn the streets of that blue state red with blood. As commander-in-chief, I have the right to occupy Chicago, and even if I didn't, who in the hell is going to try and stop me? It's like a foreign country over there overrun by Democrats. And our troops will love the Chicago-style deep dish pizza they serve. I may have to join them before I get in a round of golf." End quote. Our team of novice reporters has also learned that Trump plans to deploy the National Guard to invade New York City, Buffalo, San Francisco, Portland, Seattle, and Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania. In her press briefing last Friday, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said, quote, "The president is going to target cities that are controlled by Democrats because where there are Democrats, there is crime, and where there is crime, there are voters who support Democrats. The president will do whatever is necessary to ensure he remains in power after his term expires, and taking cities by use of military force is the best way for him to achieve that goal. If Hitler could do it, so can President Trump." End quote. On the other hand, Press Secretary Leavitt was more reserved when asked why Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania was on President Trump's list. Leavitt explained, quote, "Even though Pennsylvania went for Trump in the 2024 election, the president has deep concerns about the well-known groundhog Punxsutawney Phil's ability to influence voters on the climate change question. Each year on Groundhog Day, Punxsutawney Phil gets to make the call about the arrival of spring. The president believes that Punxsutawney Phil is a radical left liberal and that his Groundhog Day predictions are rigged in favor of global warming. In recent years, he has predicted a shorter winter and the early arrival of spring. The president will have the Pennsylvania National Guard and federal FBI agents in place on Groundhog Day in Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania, to verify whether or not Punxsutawney Phil in fact sees his shadow that morning. Pennsylvania's Governor Josh Shapiro will have a detail of Pennsylvania state troopers on hand to ensure Punxsutawney Phil is safe in anticipation of an assassination attempt on his life. Governor Shapiro said, quote, "We've already had one fake assassination attempt this year during a presidential campaign visit, and we want to make sure that if there is another, even if it's an attempt on a groundhog, that it's for real." End quote. Governor Shapiro has indicated that his state troopers may be forced to enter into a violent clash with Trump's National Guard troops on February 2nd, 2026. Shapiro said, quote, "If lives are lost in Pennsylvania on February 2nd, I will rename the day 6 Feet Under Groundhog Day." End quote. In a related story, our novice reporters have learned from the Pennsylvania Department of Public Safety that a custom-made bulletproof vest for Punxsutawney Phil is on order. And now, it's time to take another short musical break to listen to another original piece composed by E. Dudex and performed by Rusty Stubblefield and the Electric Love Orchestra, entitled "Will Our Systems Hold?" Stay tuned and we'll be right back with another conflated conspiracy theory.
Will our systems hold? Will our systems hold? Coming to Chicago.
Yeah.
Coming to LA.
Yeah.
Coming round the corner.
Yeah.
Coming here to stay. On their way to Portland.
Yeah.
Off to NYC. Baltimore and Detroit.
Get your hands up.
After you and me.
Yeah.
Will our systems hold? Will our systems hold?
Thank you, boys and girls. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Remember, the Electric Love Orchestra's complete catalog is available online at Bearberry Path Music. Our next story focuses on mail-in ballots. While President Trump has flip-flopped on his position regarding mail-in ballots numerous times during his 2 terms in office, after his meeting with Russia's President Vladimir Putin in Alaska, Trump, in his ongoing efforts to rig the nation's election, is now thoroughly convinced that mail-in ballots result in voter fraud and should be outlawed in the United States. At a military rally in Washington, D.C. to celebrate his occupation of the nation's capital, Trump said, quote, "People need to understand that as long as I am president, there is no longer a need for presidential elections in America. That's just not the way autocratic countries and their leaders do business." End quote. In his no-holds-barred speech to Army National Guard members, Trump said, quote, "I will not allow federal postal workers and election workers to handle envelopes with stamps on them that were licked by millions of different people. Stamp licking is a disgusting practice and exposes our patriotic federal employees to diseases such as influenza, measles, and AIDS. I have directed Bobby," referring to RFK Jr., "to look into this." Trump continued, "Once you place an envelope in a mailbox, you don't know where it's been or who has handled it. In some cases, ballots have sat in mailboxes for many weeks and have grown mold, mildew, and become infested with ticks, lice, fleas, and even ringworm. There have also been thousands of reports where people have been seen wiping mail-in ballots between their butt cheeks before the ballots were opened and counted. Not under those or any other circumstances will I allow our nation's election workers to count mail-in ballots. This is a national emergency, and I will be signing an executive order in 2 weeks to put an end to it." End quote. In the alternative, President Trump is advocating for a return to a voting system that relies exclusively on paper ballots. Trump said, quote, "With a paper ballot, you have a signed piece of paper with a person's name on it. This way I get to know who voted for me and who didn't. Also, if I don't like the election results in any given city, county, or state, I can always destroy the paper ballots by burning them in a bonfire. It worked out just fine for Adolf Hitler." End quote. In terms of the mail-in ballots for members of the armed services who are stationed overseas, Trump said, quote, "Since I'm their commander-in-chief, they have a constitutional requirement to follow my orders, and I will sign an executive order requiring them to vote for me. Problem solved. And for those voters with life-limiting handicaps that prevent them from traveling, or for those who live greater than 50 miles from a voting center, they should rest assured that their vote doesn't matter anyway." End quote. In a related story, Trump also intends to repurpose all of the voting machines currently owned by the U.S. government by retrofitting them with the same software used for slot machines and off-track betting. Trump said, quote, "There will be no waste on my watch, and you just watch. The casino industry will start to boom."
Well, we've reached our destination. We'll be back next week to pick you up for yet another journey to and from the Conflation Station.